You are not even 30 years old. My God. Yeah. You started this when you were 18?
That's right. I feel as if I'm getting too old for this stuff, though. I'll tell you, a decade in politics, you age considerably. I can't believe I'm not 30 either. Yeah, started when I was 18 in the suburbs of Chicago. I had plans to go to college, and instead I took a gap year, and it's been a gap decade and a year on top of about 11 years, and it's been the most amazing journey, just full of blessings and beyond my wildest imagination. So yeah, 29 years old, soon to be 30, and but experienced a lot in the last decade. Very, very thankful, very blessed.
You guys are everywhere. Turning Points USA, it's everywhere. You see like the Riley Gaines confrontation out in San Francisco. It's like they're via Turning Point. We had on Ian Hayworth, I think it was, for a confrontation at SUNY Albany, where he got shouted down. Turning Points. It's like you've had such an impact in ways our audience probably doesn't even realize how much of the content in today's news has effectively been brought to them because of you guys making sure these voices are heard. And is it exclusively on college campuses, Charlie?
Well, it's grown beyond that. Yeah, I mean, it's been an amazing kind of thing to see the last couple of years. I mean, for example, a couple of years ago, we started with Candace Owens on campuses, and now she's a huge force to be reckoned with. And Brandon Tatum and Anna Paulina, who's now a member of Congress, actually started with us. She got her start in kind of conservative world, visiting college campuses, and now she's an incredibly dynamic congresswoman, the youngest ever Hispanic Latina to be elected. And yes, of course, the Riley Gaines situation. And so it all started with high school and college campuses, and now it's grown to churches and parents groups and homeschool associations and influencers. And I mean, our big mission statement at Turning Point USA is pretty simple. We want to make sure that our grandkids live in America that we can recognize. We want our grandkids to love America. We believe in a free society. We believe in the Constitution, rule of law, pretty standard stuff that shouldn't really be that controversial. I mean, I have personal views that sometimes can get people rather excited, but as an organization, our views are center right. It's about the American founding, the Declaration, free markets, private property rights. And it's really kind of grown into this force beyond my, wildest imaginations that have empowered hundreds of thousands of young people and certain people you've mentioned, such as Riley Gaines and Anna Paulina. And really, the vision over the last couple of years has turned into this movement to try and recapture a generation that is increasingly going in a troubling and negative direction of anti-Americanism, of anti-capitalism. We call it wokeism. We can explore that, which really is just repurposed left-wing nonsense of the 60s and 70s and put through a different lens. And our vision is much more optimistic, much more positive, talking about how you can live a flourishing and fulfilling life in this nation. And going to these campuses has been illuminating, especially for the last couple of years. I've personally spoken over 120 college campuses from all across the country, from Brown to Stanford. And you learn a lot about the issues and the challenges facing a generation when you do that. But Turning Point USA is now really the premier organization for all ages fighting for the ideas of freedom, liberty, and American exceptionalism.
Yeah, you guys, and you're in the belly of the beast because you're going where the indoctrination is at its peak. These college campuses, that's where they're getting them. And a lot of these kids don't even realize there's an alternative. There are a lot of young people who don't feel this way. There's a conservative alternative point of view that's available to you. And I was thinking about you last week when that study came out showing that some huge amount of young liberals are depressed and, in therapy and need help. And I was like, you know what? That's because that's what they're leaning into right now. That's what their messengers are telling them to lean into: victimhood, upset, sadness. And the conservative vision is so much more optimistic, hopeful, empowering. It didn't always used to be this way. I had RFK Jr. on the show a few times now, but in his first long interview that we did back in March of 21, he was saying how grown-up Kennedy, the son of RFK, the grandfather, Joseph Kennedy, in that family was like, no whining in this house. Get out. Whiners, get out. Right? Like that was a tough family that raised
that's president. Right. You're not allowed to say that anymore.
But now it's like this is sort of getting divided along party lines.
No, that's right. And to kind of piggyback on what you say on the depression, I mean, it makes sense in a certain extent. So you have an entire political movement that says your history sucks and it's awful. So you have nothing to be thankful for that came before you. Your actions really won't improve your life, right? So that if you try to lose weight or save money, none of it matters because meritocracy doesn't actually exist. And by the way, the world's going to end in 10 years because of climate change. Yeah, I mean, I'd be depressed too. And to substitute for all that, just do as many substances as you want. Like no matter what, you could do as much marijuana, as much psychedelic drugs, and have as much free sex as possible. Do not restrain any of your impulses. Well, just from the simplest reading of psychology, that's really dumb to tell a 19-year-old to do, because then they all of a sudden ask the question of, well, what is true? What is meaningful? Maybe I should, engage self-control more than self-esteem. And so then, yes, you do create the most depressed, suicidal, alcohol-addicted, and drug-addicted generation in history. And there is a political component to it, which people don't always want to pinpoint, which is conservatives are just happier. And not every conservative is happy, and not every liberal is mad or angry or depressed. But over time, people that tend to not argue with reality, people that tend to not wage war on the natural law, you're going to fit probably neater into the harmony of the cosmos than someone that is committed with evangelistic zeal and fervor that men can give birth. Like that would drive me mad too, to try to make that work. You're never going to make that work. No matter how many pharmacological agents, no matter how many textbooks, no matter how much propaganda, you're going to end up in a state of madness. St. Augustine had a great quote where he said, if you argue with reality, welcome to hell. And a lot of young people are in hell, and I feel for them. And so when we go to these campuses, Megyn, the biggest problem that we have is we can't find rooms big enough to fit all the students that want to attend our speeches. And they don't all agree with what I have to say. I mean, I have very strong opinions, and they're considered to be triggering thought crimes. But what's amazing is, okay, a couple dozen will walk out because they're so triggered. But there's a lot of kids that stay there that might they think they disagree with what I'm saying, and they'll listen and they'll listen. And very similar to Ben Shapiro, who deserves a lot of credit for being kind of a pioneer with this, and same with Steven Crowder, we'll invite anybody who disagrees to the front of the line, and they could say whatever they want to me. And we have question and answer for 40, 45 minutes. And what is positive, what is heartwarming to me, and what gives me encouragement is that over a period of time, just an hour and a half, we can make serious inroads to all of a sudden put forward a pro-reality, pro-American, rather moderate viewpoint, which is, I'm not going to condemn you if we disagree. I think disagreement is what makes life fun. I mean, you mentioned RFK Jr. He's a Democrat that I hope does very well because I agree with him on some things. I certainly disagree with him on others, but he's interesting. He's provocative. He's willing to challenge the power structures. He's not just the same regime talking points repurposed by ChatGPT to try to win over, some sort of swing voter. He's an independent thinker. He's a free spirit. And so I think that the conservative side has not just become the rebellious side, but it's honestly the more interesting side. And I think you see that in the ascendance of independent media and the collapse of corporate media. And that is the ethos we bring to our work every single day at Turning Point USA.
Look, you did the tough thing for your employees during COVID. You paid your people and you pulled your business through the pandemic. And now doing the tough thing could qualify you for up to $26,000 per employee at covidtaxrelief.org. Government funds are available right now to reward companies with 2 or more employees who stayed open during COVID. It's not a loan. You don't have to pay it back. The program's complicated, but no one knows more about it than the CPAs and tax pros at covidtaxrelief.org. You pay nothing up front. They do all the work and then share a percentage of the cash they get you. Businesses of all types, including nonprofits and churches, can qualify, even those who took PPP loans, and even if you had increases in sales. You did the tough thing during COVID. Now let covidtaxrelief.org help get you up to $26,000 per employee. Visit covidtaxrelief.org. Isn't it worth checking out? covidtaxrelief.org, covidtaxrelief.org. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.